terms of the way that BARC engages in the process for timber planning in Mount Hood National Forest, a lot of it is dictated by something called NEPA, or the National Environmental Policy Act, which is basically a very simple law that says that any federal action that's going to have an impact on our environment is something that the public has the right to be engaged in. So following that NEPA process, what happens is the Forest Service issues something called a scoping letter, which opens an initial comment period, and we will submit comments based on the information provided in that scoping letter. But it's a very limited information because the scoping period is a time before the Forest Service has actually analyzed the environmental impact of a timber sale. So it's basically a pretty schematic map and their intention of how they plan to do the logging, like a commercial thin, for example. So we initially start providing comments during that period, and that's when we start also organizing around a sale. We have volunteers come out and do ground truthing. We start informing people in communities that care about Mount Hood National Forest about what's being planned by the Forest Service. And the second step is the Forest Service will issue an environmental assessment that has a more detailed analysis of what the impacts in the proposed timber sale may be. Once we have the environmental assessment, we're able to sort of critique their science or look at what they have put in their documents and decide whether or not that's actually what we're seeing on the ground, if it's an adequate analysis or not. After the environmental assessment period ends and we've submitted comments and organized the public to be engaged, the Forest Service comes back with a decision on the timber sale. And at that point, our next step is to appeal the sale if it's not sort of meeting our standards for what we're sort of able to live with in terms of logging in Mount Hood National Forest. So we go through an appeal resolution process where we file our initial appeal. The Forest Service meets with us to sort of negotiate on what terms we need changed in the timber sale. Then after that, we either come to an agreement and the sale moves forward, or we don't come to an agreement, at which point the Mount Hood National Forest passes on our sort of attempt for resolution to a sort of higher level in the Forest Service, the regional office it's called. And if the regional office if the regional office agrees with Mount Hood's plan, then they come back and say, no, this appeal is not going to be settled, at which point we have the right to litigate on that sale. And we will actually sue the Forest Service over their plans, to propose logging, like the kind of logging that we're likely to see in the Jazz timber sale. And all along through that process, we are informing people, our supporters and members of the public, about what's happening, where we are in the process, getting them engaged and providing them opportunities to take action to help protect the areas of the forest that we're concerned about in these proposed timber sales. And hopefully in the end, we win, and either the timber sale is canceled or negotiations are successful in a way that allow us to protect some of the most sensitive parts of that forest that we're concerned about being damaged by a timber sale.